I wear my sunglasses at night so I can make a Halloween YouTube video. I wear my sunglasses at night so I can talk about horror movie soundtracks.
So welcome back, everybody. These are the Dreadful Minutes. My name is Rick. So this will be a Halloween video, or at least dropping around Halloween time. So I plan on showing some horror movie, thriller type of soundtracks, and some little miscellaneous things along the way. Stuff that I picked up during the course of the year. So things that are deadly, chilling, macabre, all that good stuff. So this should be a fun time. So let's see what I got to show you. Okay, first up, let's do Demons. So classic movie, came out in 1985, and so here's the DVD. Very cool. So for those of you who have not seen it, basically it consists of these demons, and they go around and killing everybody. The whole premise about it is that if they scratch you, you basically turn into one of them. So it's not like one of those zombie movies where like it can take hours or whatever and the infection kicks in. So it's pretty much almost instantaneously, except maybe if you're the first victim. The thing about these kind of movies is that back in the day, with a lot of those practical effects, they like to take their time to show you the transformation scenes. So you know what's going to happen, right? But these people take pride in their work, and they want you to see the fangs growing and the claws kicking in and all that stuff. So this had a sequel, and this is a directed by Lamberto Bava. So this is Italian, and of course Dario Argento, another legendary director, has his name attached to this. There was a sequel, Demons 2, which pretty much follows the same template as this, more or less. So rather than a movie theater, which they're all enclosed in, motorcycles and machetes. That's what you get here. But in the sequel, Dario Argento, so that was his daughter's acting debut. So if you know Asia Argento, it's in that one. So funny enough, those movies can be seen freely on YouTube. I just typed it in and there it came up. I don't know the legality of it. I may or may not leave a link to it if you're interested in seeing it. But as far as the soundtrack, so I picked up this really interesting Rustblade comics. So this is number 1. And it's kind of a package deal. You don't have to get the comic with it, but pretty damn awesome. So here's the soundtrack, and here's the comic. So pull it out here. So Claudio Simonetti, as you know, is part of a group called Goblin. And the thing about Goblin is they got their start doing the working a lot with Dario Argento, among other people, but Suspiria is one of those movies. And by the time he did Demons, he was pretty much going solo. Goblin pretty much broke up by this point, and at least temporarily. So they're kind of back together. There were several iterations, which I'll get to in a little bit. So this is a 2-disc set, and we got the original soundtrack, and so there you go. A lot of stuff happening here. You got the iconic picture, with the light show and the glowing eyes, that whole deal. So here they are in the studio. There's that mask. So these things usually start with a cut or some kind of blood, and that's when things go haywire. So think Hellraiser. Pretty cool. As far as the comic goes, so there's quite a series of things that they sell. If you look in the back, I think there's they got a Dawn of the Dead edition there too. If you look at it right here, pretty cool. As far as the comic, it's all black and white. I thought it was very well illustrated. So this does not follow the story exactly like the movie. It's kind of like an alternative universe. It has some of the same characters. It's got that pimp. He appears in the second movie too, but he's more of a gym rat in that one. So I mean, look at that. There's some. There's the mask, and her getting cut there. Right here. So that's kind of how this all follows. Came with this nice little flyer. There's that mask. Illustrated by Simona Simone. 2019. So more cool illustrations. So it treads lightly the way it follows the movie, but again, not exactly. It's a bit of an alternate universe take. So here they are. There's that Pip character. Ah, man. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, you know, here he turns into a demon. There's that transformation. I just love the way and how loose the illustration is. It's all done really well. So, along with the CD and the comics, I actually managed to grab this import. So this is a single. So it's got the two dominant tracks, Demon and Killing. And here's Claudio. I can't get more 80s than this. I mean, look at that. Yeah. Pretty cool. And of course, in Italy, it was called Demoni. So, thought it was a really cool item to have. I mean, obviously, the music's the same, just in black. Now, as far as his band Goblin, I mean, he kept that going for a while, and they broke up. They turned into New Goblin, and then he formed another band, which is more kind of a more rock edge oriented, called Demonia. So, what's cool is that he was involved with Dawn of the Dead, and back in 1978, I believe, is when that came out. So here you can see the logo Goblin. So this right here is a soundtrack. I'm sure a lot of you know that little picture right there. So this is a re-recording of the Dawn of the Dead soundtrack with a more modern take. So basically, it's the Demonia band under the name Goblin, redoing the soundtrack. So if you find the original Dawn of the Dead soundtrack a little dated, check this one out. It's a really cool interpretation. So this was put out by Rustblade Deep Red. So again, this is a nice return to form for George Romero at the time. You know, when he did Night of the Living Dead. So this was his foray into color. Pretty cool. And this is a 2-disc edition. I think the second disc is just all kind of like live stuff. Pretty cool. And yeah, one little detail about this movie I noticed that I looked in the back and looking at the credits, it says no, it's not this one. I think it's the other one. I'll show you. Dawn of the Dead. That's what it was. It wasn't Demons. This particular movie is credited as music by The Goblins instead of Goblin. And I've always wondered about that. You know, maybe it was the copy editor. It was probably Federico. Federico was you, wasn't it? You had one job, man. One job. So, Claudio Simonetti Legendary. Check out his work. I actually have one of his recent material. So they do put out non-movie soundtrack kind of stuff. So this is the Devil is Back. Came out in 2019. Check it out. It's on Spotify. This is does not sound dated at all. This is some really cool production. Very bouncy. Really good kicking bass. So here it came in a nice gatefold. Also put out by Rustblade. So there's the band in their full wonder. Pretty cool. And this came in a white vinyl. For those of you who were curious. There's that Tartini painting, which is very famous. There's a whole story behind that. But let's move on to the next one. Okay, so next up is stuff that I got from Waxwork Records. Some of you may be familiar. They're based out of New Orleans, Louisiana, I believe. And man, they do some killer presentation and packaging, which I will show in a second. But I will leave a link to their store. And they got just about anything you could ever want, as far as horror movie, anything with, anything that has to do with thriller movies, anything like that. They got it. And what they do is they have to sort of reimagining with the artwork. So when I look at this stuff, it's, of course, you got the music, but they also really hone in on the details. So everything here is quality. So let's start with the obvious here. So this is Creepshow. As you guys know, this is the collaboration with George Romero and Stephen King. So this came out the movie came out in 1982. So I would have been 2 years old. I wasn't watching this when I was 2 years old. So the artwork was done by a fella named Gary Pullen, should I say. And he did this and the second one, which I'll also show, and another one. So he's like the main dude they got there. And whatever they're paying him, I hope it's enough. Because this stuff is amazing. So it's a gatefold. And here's the back. So here's the front. Let me just look at that. The original LP soundtrack did not look anything like this. It's kind of tame compared to this. I mean, this is a really nice reinterpretation of the soundtrack. And this was done by... who was it? John Harrison. John Harrison, who I believe did Day of the Dead, as a matter of fact. Amongst others. He's another accomplished composer. So here is the inside of the gatefold. They kept that comic book aesthetic throughout. Did a bang-up job. I mean, look at that. So Leslie Nielsen's in this one too. No, he's not funny in this one either. I don't believe this opens up. Let me see. There's another page. I think there's one more page. Yeah, here we go. So this is the creature. If you've seen the movie, in the box or the crate, and there is quite a bit of text here. So kind of just talking a little bit about the movie and whatnot. Really, really cool. And this is some pretty heavy stock. I mean, look at that. These guys are not playing around. As far as the LP, I got the sea algae, to kind of go with this. Got to remember that scene with, who was it? Ted Danson. So, pretty cool. It's a sign of quality too when they even pay attention to the labels. There you go. There's your sea algae. Next up, if you haven't guessed by now, is Creepshow 2. I actually showed this on a live stream a little while back, but I figured for those of you who missed it, I'll show it again. So this is the second one. Again, stories taken by Stephen King. There you go. There's the, what is it, the Creeper? Whereas the first Creepshow had, I think it was 5 mini-stories. This one had 3. This was supposed to have 5 mini-stories, but 2 were pulled out due to budget reasons. There's the back. And just like the first one, nice heavy stock. This one I think has a few more pages. And so let me go ahead and flip through this. So I'll start with the beginning. There's Old Chief Woodenhead. Pretty cool. Next page here. We got the Raft. This one was probably the most traumatizing one for me when this came out. More in the mid-'80s. So, yeah. The actual location for the Raft, there was a lot of production problems. I think one of the fellas, I think it was the main guy, almost quit. He was catching hypothermia during filming. The lake is still there. There is a YouTube video of someone who actually not too long ago went to go visit that lake and see where this was filmed. So I'll leave a link to that clip if I can find it. Really, really cool. As far as the vinyl, so there's a Chief Indian Woodhead edition. So it's like a brown vinyl. But since I got the first Creepshow and I wanted to keep sort of the aquatic thing going, they also gave you an option of the Raft. So that little black sludge thing. So if you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. There you go. So it's supposed to represent the lake, and you got the little black sludge creature thing. Pretty cool. Again, the attention to detail is spectacular. And the labels are all different. So you got the little voodoo doll there. I mean, these guys did not skimp anything. And the prices were pretty reasonable. So I would recommend getting it directly through Waxwork Records. Unless you know a really good vendor, but that's probably where you're going to get the best price. I've seen these things go for a lot more than that elsewhere. So I actually don't have any of the Creepshow DVDs or Blu-rays, but I do for this next one. So continuing on with Waxwork, we have House. And this one is more of a combo deal. So, again, more artwork by Gary Poland. So he did the 2 Creepshows, and he did the House. Just amazing. So we got House 1, which came out in 86, 85, 86, something like that. There's House 2. So the first House, if you guys didn't know, so Fred Dekker, who did Monster Squad and a few other movies, he did the Twilight Zone, the movie, and I guess there was a big tragedy with that movie. But overall, he enjoyed working on the set and on that horror anthology type of thing. So he wanted to do his own, because he didn't own Twilight Zone, obviously. So he wanted to start his own, and but that kind of fell through, and it didn't work for whatever reason. So the story for House was supposed to be one of the stories in that horror anthology, which I'm glad that didn't work out, because the way this story worked for House, I would have been better as a full movie. There was a lot of stuff going on. It's more campy humor. Think Evil Dead. It kind of treads that territory. And one cool thing about Waxwork Records is they actually gave me 2 rice paper sleeves to go along with it. The records are also in their own polyline sleeves here, but they also gave me the rice paper ones. And the way everything was packed, it's just amazing. Again, the attention to detail. I even had this business card. Your order was carefully packed by Rachel. That is goddamn customer service. That's how you do it. So, back to House. Here's the, look at that. There's Big Ben. There's that dog caterpillar thing from the second movie. The crystal skull. That freaking demon behind the medicine cabinet. You know, that raccoon, right? Again, watch the movie. You'll know what I'm talking about. In my opinion, the first two are the ones really worth watching. There were 4 House movies made. The second House movie is a little more lighthearted. It's more of an adventure. The first House movie has more of a cello kind of thing going on, whereas the second one has a more of an adventure. It's still kind of in the horror realm, but more of an adventure feel. Now, the score for this, done by Harry Manfredini, this is the same guy who did all the Friday the 13th movies. So yeah, he did all the Jason stuff. Almost all the Jason stuff. He did not do Jason Takes Manhattan. I don't know what went wrong there or why he didn't do it. Maybe he just saw the premise for it and goes, no, this is stupid. Jason Manhattan. Keep me out of that. I'm just speculating. But House 1, House 2, really good movies. House 1, still my favorite. That was the first one I saw. But if you want something you can actually watch with your kids, House 2 is probably less traumatizing. What is it? John Ratzenberg is in that. Who else? Bill Maher's in that. Kane Hodder, who plays Jason, actually appears in House 2. So he's the guy in that gorilla costume who gets pushed down the steps, I think. But yeah, this movie kills, man. House 1, House 2, again, they feel very different directors. Fred Decker, I don't think, was involved in House 2. That was a new person, new writer. So they came out within like a year from each other. And I think that was possible because of the different people working on it. But yeah, so as far as the variants, again, they gave me the rice paper, but they also gave me this. As you can see, the crystal skull there. And then that's for House 2. And for House 1, you have the sort of, that little peephole there. Pretty cool. So let me pull out the vinyl. They're both the same color. And you got the sort of nice brown, marbly, rusty, I guess kind of I don't know. I guess it was supposed to represent kind of that really old creaky house kind of look to it. But really, really sharp, really, really good stuff. The House movies are on Blu-ray, so here's the first one. And there's the second one. And, kind of keeping in theme with the artwork. Really, really cool. People coming back from the dead. His old buddy from Vietnam, and it's kind of trying to cope with what happened to him during the time in the war, and it turns out his buddy wants revenge. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. So House 2, again, Grandpa is buried with the skull. Turns out that's what's kept him alive, and trouble ensues, right? So there's House. And as far as the Waxwork stuff, I mean, this is just an amazing company. I love everything they put out. It's just quality. The artwork's amazing. The remastering with the sound, it's just, I can't complain. So definitely check them out. Really, really good stuff. So I'll leave a link, and that's Waxwork Records. So you're missing out if you don't check them out. Okay, last one for today. The year is 1986. There were 2 movies that came out that year that I would say would be Want to See a Dead Body kind of movies. The first one was Stand By Me, which is a Stephen King movie. And the other one is more lesser known, or at least not talked about very much. And that would be River's Edge. So, yeah, this is the movie with Crispin Glover, Keanu Reeves, Ian Sketchleach, I'm not sure how you say it, Roxana Zhao, Daniel Roebuck, Joshua Miller, and of course Dennis Hopper. So, at the time, I would probably say Dennis Hopper was probably the bigger name in this movie. Though he had a very, I wouldn't say the hugest role in this, although it was still pretty important. It's kind of disturbing. So this movie is about a real incident that happened in 1981, where somebody killed a girl and it went unreported for 2 days. And at least 13 people have seen this body. And this guy was bragging about it. So the writers of this took that idea for this movie. So it's not based directly from that incident, but it took a lot of ideas from that incident. So funny enough, Daniel Roebuck, who plays John in the movie, the guy who killed the girl, graduated from high school in '81. Although this came out in '86, he plays a high schooler in this one. Keanu Reeves was not a name yet at the time. By 1986, this is before Bill and Ted, so he didn't get the Johnny Depp introduction. You know, if you watch A Nightmare on Elm Street, and it actually says introducing Johnny Depp, so you got the shaft on that one. As far as Crispin Glover, you know, he's coming out of Back to the Future, so he was a pretty much familiar face. Yeah, he's still that pretty awkward guy, and I'll give you a minute about that character. And of course, we got Dennis Hopper, who was coming out of I think it came out the same year, maybe right before that. It was Chainsaw Massacre 2. So this is a much lighter role for him compared to what he was doing in Chainsaw 2. So very different performance. So I don't know what he was thinking when he saw this script. So I got the soundtrack right here, and this one's pretty hard to find and nail down. But why am I showing this? So although this is not a horror movie, it's talks about some horrific event. So the guy kills the girl, and he basically, I wouldn't say he brags about it, but it's more like he casually mentions this incident about strangling her to death. And he's just like, well, you know, if you want to see the body, it's over there. So, of course, everybody's freaking out. Crispin Glover's character, who's, you know, kind of a pothead and all this stuff, who tends to go to Dennis Hopper, who also is a town weed dealer, but he's kind of he's a bit of a hermit, and he's a little delusional, and all kinds of stuff's going on with him. And so he's trying to protect his friend. Crispin Glover's character is trying to protect his friend, and he's like, you should be more concerned than you are. So he goes out of his way to hide the body and do all kinds of things, you know, until they discover the body later. Keanu Reeves' brother kind of looks up to him, to Daniel Roebuck's character. So this kid is just, you know, thinking he's the town hero. So, I don't know. The thing about the music in this movie is it almost reminds me of, if you ever watched King of the Hill, and you remember those scenes, right? When John Redcord will pull up in his Jeep, and that's when you'll hear those little snippets of Ariel Speedwagon and all that other stuff. That's how the music comes about in this movie. So you'll hear it all in basically car rides. People pull up somewhere here and there. You might hear a little Slayer. You might hear a little bit of what do you call it? Fate's Warning, and all kinds of stuff. So, interesting thing about the soundtrack to this is that this is a collaboration between Enigma and Metal Blade. So, you figure around 85, 86, Brian Slagel was using this as a vehicle to push those bands under the guise of a soundtrack. So, it was probably a very affordable way, keeping the movie low budget, to kind of use these sort of what you call less expensive bands. But at the same time, you know, rather than paying a big composer to do this and all that, despite the fact you did have some known actors. River's Edge, looking at this, for example, like we got side A, and we have, let me see, Hallows Eve is on this. Lethal Tendencies. So they were a brand spanking new band. And Hallows Eve came out right here. So I got this really cool 2-disc set, which is pretty much the early essentials for this band. And I think they're pretty much unsigned nowadays. They're just pulling stuff out on their own. So, yeah, Tales of Terror, I think just came out the year before. So they were pushing that track. And that was for Lethal Tendencies. Interesting fun fact. So, in June of 85, this band, Megadeth, puts this banger out. And the following month, I shit you not. So, Hallows Eve puts out Tales of Terror, and the first track on that is Plunging to Mega Death. Although it's spelled differently. That's just the craziest coincidence that this will come out Megadeth, June, July, Plunging to Megadeth. Now, this is not a Bay Area band. These guys are from, Atlanta? They're from Georgia. So, very, very, very far from the sound of these guys. Although these guys still played sort of that heavy speed, thrash kind of sound, but not quite like the Bay Area guys. So, thought that was worth a mention. Going back to this, so Bryce Lego's trying to push this, and he, although he did have the Metal Massacre series at the same time, so those compilations were probably, and I'm trying to put myself in his mind at the time. This would have been a much better vehicle for those bands. Although the characters in the movie don't really come off as super metalheads or anything like that. I guess it's just based on the way they present themselves in a movie. I guess you could kind of maybe see how that would be appropriate. So you got Fate's Warning, Karia Ellison. I never knew how to say that correctly. You got Agent Orange. So you got the Wipers and Agent Orange are like, we got the punk, new wave kind of bands coming. This was a nice change of direction. And, and you got Burning Spear, which is very random, but hey, no legendary reggae artist, so it's not a complete metal soundtrack, but it's very interesting how they really put, even here it says special price 4 Slayer tracks on that sticker right there. So very interesting time in history. This movie is definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it yet. It's a very early vehicle for these actors, but I wonder what Keanu Reeves thinks of this movie today. Nothing special with the vinyl, but very cool nonetheless to kind of have this little piece of history. The DVDs are not hard to come by, but the Blu-ray you may have a little trouble. I think they only pressed this once and kind of called it a day. But I think more people need to know about this movie. Really good thriller. I just find it funny how he killed that girl, and oh, by the way, she's full stark naked in that movie. So just word of caution when you come across that. So kills this girl, and his best friend is more invested in his well-being than the killer is. Funny enough. Later on, Dennis Hopper's character becomes more prominent. How all this kind of closes out. So again, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but very cool, very good movie. Is something I will put on all the time? No, but it's at least worth watching once, at least once. So that's River's Edge. Well, I hope you all had fun. So this wraps up another episode of the Dreadful Minutes. So leave some information in the comments if you guys know any more tidbits about some of the stuff I've shown here. I'm sure I left out quite a bit of information, so I kind of just wanted to keep things going along. So I'll catch you on the next one, and keep it dreadful.